Joining us right now is Joe diGenova, legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Always great to talk to Joe on a Monday. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
All right, sir. A second so-called whistleblower is surfacing, but just barely. We still don't know who this person is. But this time the claim is that he has firsthand knowledge of the president's conversation with the Ukrainian president. What do you make of this person's rise this weekend?
Well, this is part of a plan to roll out various people at various times to keep the story alive and to create momentum for impeachment. This second whistleblower is not a whistleblower. As you know, the President of the United States is not covered by the Whistleblower Act or the Inspector General of the intelligence community. So the whistleblower is not entitled to whistleblower protection, just as the first one was not entitled to whistleblower protection, because they are not talking about programs or actions or finances related to the intelligence community. That said, this is part of a plan which the Democrats have worked out with various lawyers and groups in town to continue the pressure and the public pressure for impeachment. This is even though they have not taken a formal impeachment and vote in order to protect moderate Democrats who won in Trump victory districts, that's where they're headed. Now, make no mistake about it. They're headed to a vote on impeachment no matter what.
This is, you say that this is the plan that they're going to do. This is what they did with Judge Kavanaugh, now Justice Kavanaugh, a year ago. First it was Christine Blasey Ford, then it was Deborah Ramirez, then it was Julie Swetnick. So they've got these people lined up. But if this person who claims to be a first-person whistleblower, having firsthand information about this, that would say to me that this person was on the phone call with the president. Why wouldn't they express their concerns at the time or go through the channels to become a whistleblower? It just would seem to me that if you're on that phone call, you could express your opinion at the time.
I don't know who this person is or where they were or what they did. Having firsthand knowledge, perhaps they were one of the people on the phone call. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. The transcript of the phone call is out. That is the best evidence. That's what the Justice Department relied on when it said that this was not a matter of urgent concern that the Inspector General of the intelligence community thought it was. So this person has apparently gone to the Inspector General, or I have no idea who or what it is. The essence of what you're seeing is an attempt to continue what started in 2016. Remember that Bill Barr and John Durham are investigating the activities, apparently illicit activities, of the intelligence community and the FBI during and before the 2016 election. This is part of that. This is a continuum of that illicit activity. And that is why John Brennan and others are screaming to high heaven about Bill Barr's investigation. So this person, whoever he or she is, this is color commentary coming from a second source. Big deal. The best evidence is the transcript, and it's completely innocuous.
Right.
But that doesn't matter, because the Democrats, coupled with people like Chuck Todd and George Stephanopoulos, are simply lying about what the transcript says and about what others have said about that conversation and about what went on in Ukraine. So it doesn't matter what this person says, because regardless of its truth, it will be said to be exactly what happened with no proof whatsoever.
Yeah, one of the most dishonest features of all the coverage here is they keep accusing Republicans and the president and people like you, Joe, of engaging in a conspiracy theory about how the whole Russia investigation got started, while simultaneously engaging in a conspiracy theory of their own about the notion that the transcript was somehow doctored, that it's not actually a transcript that the White House released. It says so right there on the transcript. It says it's not a verbatim transcript. They have this conspiracy theory that something worse happened on the call than the president actually revealed.
Well, that may very well be. You have to. The fundamental dishonesty of everyone involved trying to take the president down, which includes the House Democrats and, of course, all of the mainstream media, is something really appalling to watch. There's nothing anybody can do about that except fight back with facts and the truth and do commentary. And I think the president, considering the circumstances, is doing very well. But the fact is that the continuous pounding of lies does have an effect on the body politic. If you say a lie enough, people will eventually believe it, or a substantial number of people will believe it. And so that is the danger here, is that lies eventually become quote-unquote truth. And that is why this is being continued. They know they want to try and create an impeachment scenario so that they can use it against the president in the 2020 election. This is all aimed at hurting him and harming him and damaging him for the 2020 election. It's a pretty sad state of affairs. And as I've said before, we're in a civil war in this country. And anybody who doesn't believe that or understand it is lying to themselves. All you have to do is watch Chuck Todd yesterday on Meet the Press and George Stephanopoulos on This Week, almost verbatim questions coming out of their mouth, talking points from the deep state, people in the Democratic Party, Adam Schiff and his people, and the lawyers representing the whistleblowers. This is a war, and that's why the 2020 election is going to be the most important election in the last 100 years.
So, Joe, it's your belief then that this will go to a vote, that they will vote to open a formal impeachment into the president, because the president said he will not cooperate unless there is a vote to make it formal. They'll go through this. It'll pass in the House. It'll go to the Senate, where it's going to die. But this is just to ride this out and keep this going as long as possible. Do you think the Democrats will try to ride this right up to this time next year?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, what they're not going to vote to have an investigation of impeachment. What they're going to do is they're going to allow these 6 committees to continue doing what they're doing, which is issue subpoenas, litigate over them, and then when the White House and others refuse to produce documents and testimony based on executive privilege or whatever it is, they're going to claim that every one of those refusals to produce is an article of impeachment, of obstruction of justice, and violation of the Constitution. They will never take a vote to hold an impeachment inquiry on the floor of the House. All they will do is submit articles of impeachment and have votes on those articles of impeachment on the floor of the House. There will never be a vote to have a formal investigation, because if they do that, then the Republicans get subpoena power, and they don't want the Republicans to have subpoena power. But here's what I want to know. I want to know who these 2 whistleblowers are. I want the press and the public to be able to find out their backgrounds, who they work for, what kind of political contributions they've given. Do you notice how you notice how disinterested in their identity the media is? I wonder why that is. If this were someone blowing the whistle against a Democrat, this would, they would want this person destroyed. But that is what we're facing here. The media is totally corrupt. It's not even a question anymore. And so the issue is, in a free society, when you have a duly elected president being assaulted like this, where people are trying to nullify an election, what do you do? And the answer is, you fight, you talk, you go out, you campaign. The president's doing a brilliant job. I can't imagine what it's like to be trying to function as the president of the United States with these assaults on him on a daily basis. The Democrats are shameless, however. They simply don't care about the country. They care about power. They want to take back the House and the Senate and the presidency, and God help us if they get them.
A lot more legal news to get to with Joe diGenova. I have a follow-up question about this second whistleblower and why they may be coming forward now. Just a moment. We've got Joe diGenova with us, legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, this second so-called whistleblower, if they were leaking information to the first person and then subsequently decided, you know what, I'm actually a whistleblower, I'm going to file a complaint as a whistleblower, does that afford them any sort of protections for having leaked in the first place?
It'll depend upon who the person was that they leaked to, whether or not they had security clearances, whether or not they had a need to know, et cetera. The reason they want to be whistleblowers is they think they get protections from that against investigations from the executive branch, for example, and investigations by the Department of Justice. The issue here, however, is who are these people? I don't really care what they have to say. I want to know who they are. You notice how this has sort of gotten forgotten?
Right.
All of a sudden, we're bringing these people to life. We're making them into important figures. We don't even know who the hell they are. I want to know who the first quote-unquote whistleblower was who is not a whistleblower, and the second one, who are they? What are their jobs? Where do they come from? And, of course, your question about whether or not they have violated security arrangements by sharing information with people who are not qualified to receive them, including lawyers. You can't share classified information with lawyers. Those conversations of the President of the United States on a phone are classified. So this is going to get extremely complicated. You know, the press is already making these people heroes, which, of course, they're not. They are They are despicable individuals who are using anonymity to try and nullify an election with the complicity of the Democratic Party. I want to know who they are. That's what I want to know. Who are they? What's their background? Who'd they vote for? Are they Democrats? Who did they give campaign contributions to? What organizations do they belong to? If you're going to do this, if you're going to be a witness, then you got to be cross-examined. The Democrats are trying to hide them as long as they can so that they can create a momentum of a false story. So far, it's working for the Democrats with the complicity of the mainstream media.
Right. Well, that's what always happens is they run cover for them. Joe, on another note, the Supreme Court is back. They have a lot of cases that they're going to hear that are hot button cases. You've got immigration, you've got guns, you've got abortion, LGBTQ workplace discrimination. Anything that is on your radar as something that you think will maybe surprising coming out of the Supreme Court?
Well, I mean, obviously the abortion cases are all, they're always interesting and important. The executive power over immigration is extremely important, and gun rights. I mean, we have no idea how this court is going to function because we don't know how John Roberts is going to vote. Mm-hmm. He is an unknown factor, and his lack of reliability as a strong conservative voice is something that's very difficult to measure. So this will be a riverboat gamble on all these issues. I, for one, think that Roberts will never break on abortion. He's never going to get even close to overruling Roe v. Wade. I mean, that would have been, he got frightened to death of the Affordable Care Act, and they managed to browbeat him into changing his vote to overturn it to supporting it. So the key here is watch Roberts. I mean, he's the ball game, and if he decides he's going to turn on Trump and try to do everything he can to take positions on issues to hurt the president, then, we're going to have an ugly term.
What do you think of Brett Kavanaugh? Do you think that all the pressure on him has scared him in any way into becoming a squish, or has it made him more of a conservative justice?
No, I think Kavanaugh's a pretty stable fellow. I mean, I've watched him over the years, and he's a very impressive guy intellectually. Roberts obviously caved. I don't think Kavanaugh will ever do that. I think he was obviously hurt very badly as a person by what happened to him during the confirmation process. He survived it. He's managed to be a superb justice on the Supreme Court, writing beautiful opinions, very informed. But as long as the public, the Democrats are going to try and dirty him up and accuse him of this, that, and the other thing, right. They don't care. They don't care about the court. They don't care about the court's image. They always claim to care about the rule of law. The Democrats do not care about the rule of law. They care about power. They are perfectly happy to destroy the Supreme Court or add 5 more members to it or 10 more members or get rid of due process or the presumption of innocence or the right of cross-examination. The Democrats are nuts, and in the course of destroying every institution in the country, they're happy to do it if they get power. That's what this is all about. All these little sideshows, the cases in the Supreme Court, the whistleblower, this is a big game for power. It's to destroy institutions so the Democrats can have power. It's a pretty ugly thing. That's why I say we're in a civil war.
Yeah, and so you basically see the court splitting, and then you see Roberts as the wild card. He's the one that we don't know when you would think he would be.
I don't think there's any other way to look at the court. Roberts is a swing vote. He's become the new Kennedy. And, we are in a much better place than we were before Gorsuch and Kavanaugh got there. They've been marvelous contributions to the court, superb jurists, great thinkers. Roberts is, of course, sort of a funny penny that you find on the ground, and you never know what the penny's going to do. It's going to be heads, it's going to be tails. He's a flipper. So you just, you hope and pray to God that he has some sense of honor and dignity about the institution of the court and doesn't become some sort of political wag.
Well, it's going to be interesting. A lot of, as I said, important cases. A Second Amendment case coming up. You've got LGBTQ with protection and all sorts of, and DACA. There's also a DACA case coming up as well. A lot of things to talk about.
On immigration.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much. We always appreciate you.